Hi there. In this video, we are going to get a complete overview of Python programming language. I know this is a specific to Raspberry Pi PICO course and we are going to use Micropython throughout the course. And therefore, it's important for you to understand the fundamentals of Python. I will repeat it here and please keep in mind that in order to learn Raspberry Pi Pico and in order to use Micropython, it is not at all important that you should be an expert in Python. However, having the basic understanding of the programming language will help you definitely to learn faster and gain your Python expertise in a lesser time. So the purpose of this video is to give you the most commonly used Python lines, commands, functions, words that we will be using throughout the course, and it will also give you a kickstart to Python learning. Please keep this in mind that this is not an extensive Python tutorial or this is not even a Python class. I do have a complete separate and detailed Python training course as well, which you can go through if needed. However, it's not a requirement, it's not a necessity to complete this course. So let's get started and learn a little bit of Python. Now to give you an overview about the Python, Python is basically a scripting language. I will not go into the history, who invented Python, because you can learn all of those things on internet. What I'm more interested in is to directly jump and start using Python, start typing code onto it. So I'll just show you what are the ways to install Python. Either you can go to python.org and directly download the official version of Python, which will come with an IDE called IDLE, I-D-L-E. Or you can use Thony, which comes with a built-in Python interpreter. And this is also a natural choice for us because we are going to do all our experiments with respect to Raspberry Pi Pico on Thony. So when you use Thony with Raspberry Pi Pico, it will use the Micropython interpreter. But if you don't have Pico connected to your computer, it will use the Python installed on your machine, which we are going to use or do now. Additionally, if you are more interested into exploring machine learning algorithms and lot many different libraries, then you can also use Google Colab, which is an online workbook based Python interpreter, and it's really impressive for what it does. It will run all your Python programs on cloud and through browser. No installation needed. All you need is a Google account and you can use Google Colab for free. So enough of the introduction and I will jump directly onto Python. Now in order to do so, I'll just show you the python.org and then the Thony website or Thony's homepage. You will be using one of these two. And I suggest using Thony because it's simpler, nothing else. And then you can experiment with officially downloading the Python installation from here. If you download an official Python version from here, what happens is your computer will get an IDE like this. I'm opening. This is called as IDLE. It looks very old stylish because it is. It's just pure plain interpreter with a text editor. And if you use Thony or if you install Thony, then you will open something like this, which is also simple, but bit more familiar, bit more easier to use. Okay. So I'll just use Thony. I'll change the interpreter from here to local Python 3 and let's get started. So what do we mean when we say it's an interpreted language? It means every line is executed one by one. And because of that, it gives immense advantages over conventional programming language like C. I'll give you an example. So this is the Python shell. I can directly write a code here, print hello. And I'll just hit enter. And you see, my command has been executed. Hello has been printed. If you notice, there is no semicolon over here. I'll also do something more. I want to have a variable. A equal to 30 and print A. As simple as that. Now if you notice, we have not declared A like int, char or anything. We have not given a semicolon. We are not doing any formatting when we are printing A. So this is the beauty of Python. You can directly initialize a variable and use it throughout your code. You don't even have to specify if it is int or if it is a char, you can just go on and use a variable. So I'll just have a variable now called b, and I'm going to make it a char variable or a string variable like that. And what I'll do is I'll simply do print b. Now you can see b is printed as well. So this is the shell. You type something and it will immediately be executed. Alternatively, you can go conventional way and write a code and then execute it at once. But even at that stage, the code is being executed line by line. So let's get started. I'll just write down print hello world. I'll give a new line here, although it automatically comes. Then I'll just have a variable a is equal to 30, b is equal to something, c is equal to a plus b. And then what I'll do is I'll print it. As simple as that. A very simple and the basic Python program. I will save this, let's say in desktop. My testing is the name I gave it. And now I'll simply clear this area first and then click on run. And your Python program works. So hello world and 47 both are printed on your terminal. Remember, this terminal is available here because the Python is working on computer. When you use it in microcontroller like ESP32 or Raspberry Pi PICO, terminal is still available only as long as the board is connected to your computer. If your board is removed from computer, you lose all this printing facility available through the print function on Micropython. Talking about Python, they're all good. You can use this line as much as you want. There is another way to print this data as well if you want to combine text and if you want to combine the variables. Let's look at that. So print or addition is, and I'll simply give a comma, C. That's it. Let's run it using this run script button. Addition is 47. So you can combine text and variable as easily like this while printing. And you can also do something like this. Print, I will give a curly bracket. So addition of 0 plus 1 equal to 2. Now here I am specifying into curly brackets variable number 0, 1 and 2. After my double quote is finished, I'll just write dot format a comma b comma c. So what I'm doing is I'm simply passing a, b and c as 3 different index over here in this print function, and my code will work like that. You may also want to comment a particular line. If you want to do that, simply go and give a hash symbol, and that line is commented. That line will not be executed. Now this is the bare minimum that you can do with Python and print function. But when you are on MicroPython, you will not be doing much activities with print function, but you will be doing more activities with the if condition, the for condition or the while condition and likes of that. So let's try to see how we can have a comparison. Now in order to have the comparison, what I want to do is I want to have numbers input from the users and then probably try to use if condition onto it. So let me have first number in A. Now while accepting the inputs, you will have to mention that you are using int as your input, or you want int from the computer. So int input, enter first number, and I'll simply repeat this line 2-3 times. Let me call it B, C, third, second. Now, if I have to just have two numbers and print the largest one, let's see how to do that. So, if A greater than B, colon, enter, print A is largest. Have you noticed that the indent comes 1 point ahead as compared to the line number 5? So on line number 6, you will see the indent is ahead by just 1 tab. This 1 tab ahead indent means whatever you are writing over here now will be executed as a part of that if condition. So you can have as many lines here as you want, but the thing is, it will all be part of that if condition only. Now, if you want to go back to the main program indent, all you need to do is simply hit a backspace and the program will go to the main indent. This means now you're executing the main program. Now here I'll write if b is greater than a colon, and then I'll type print b is largest. Again, I'm going to give you a heads up here. Please keep in mind that this input function will work on the PC based interpreter. On Raspberry Pi PICO or ESP32, if you are using Micropython, then these input functions will not work if the cable is removed. Now let's try to execute and see what happens. So I gave first number as 85, second number as 99. So what is happening is I am casting these numbers. When you type something here, it's always taken as a text, but I'm casting them to int and they are treated as int when they are stored. Ultimately, out of these two, b is largest and we show it over here. Now, let's add the third variable into the picture. Now, there are two ways to make the comparison between three numbers. I'll show you the first one. So, what we'll do is, here, you can add another layer of if. So, if a is greater than c as well, then you print a is largest. It means you check if a is greater than b, and if it is greater than b, you also check that if a is greater than c, and if it is greater than c as well, then you print a is largest. Let's do the same thing here. If b is greater than a and if b is greater than c, then you print b is largest. Make sure to look at the indentation and the formats associated with it. Now, because of this indentation, the code executes this way only. Now, the third case is like this. If a is greater than, for c is greater than a and c is greater than b, then you print c is largest. Let's run this code. Let's enter 35, 95 and 101. Now you can see c is largest is printed. So this is how you will combine the if conditions together. Now this is how you can use if statement. You can use if statement by nesting them 1 times, 2 times or as many times as you want, or you can use if statement by combining using this statement and yes, there is one more, it's called or. Now these are some of the conditional operators that are used in Python. Apart from that, all the mathematical operators remain the same, and when doing the programming for microcontrollers or embedded systems, we don't use that many complex mathematical operators. I'll just give one more example where you can use or. So let's have just 2 numbers and okay, let me have 3 numbers. So if c is greater than a or c is greater than b, what it means is c is larger than one of a and b, because if c is greater than a or c is greater than b, then one thing is sure that c is larger than one of a and b. Let's see how do we tackle this. Now I'll run this code. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give a as 10, b as 50, but c as a middle value. So c is greater than a or c is greater than b, means it will be less than b but greater than a. 25. Now what is going to happen? B is largest will be printed and this will also be printed because c is larger than one of a and b. This is how you can use OR statement. Again, not to mention, you can definitely always have more than two conditions checked in a particular loop. So if I have D over here, then my code will change like this. If C is greater than A and C is greater than B and C is greater than D, this way. So try to create your 4-number largest number finding program in this way and see and tell me if your output works well or not. Now, I'm not going to save these codes because these are very elementary. I'll give a list of codes directly so that you can experiment with them. Now, this is if, and the second most widely used thing that I'm going to show you now is for. Now, for if is a conditional execution and for is just a looping structure. Then in if, what you do is you simply check for a condition and if you execute something if it is true or not. But in for, you simply repeat something as many times as you want. Just like if, there is one more construct called while, but in the programs that we are going to do, we will not be using it that often. But I'll show you how you can achieve looping using while also. So let me have 65 and let me have it, let's say 100. Okay. So what we are trying to do is we are trying to achieve looping. But first I'll try to do it with while. So while A is less than B, okay, I'll also import a library called time so that I can add delays into my program. Now while A is less than B, what I'm going to do is print something. Assume this as your piece of execution. And then what I will do is A is equal to A plus 1. Before that, let's also print value of A is A. Or I'll just skip that as my line because I don't have any other execution. I'm just showing the demonstration of looping. And then what we'll do is we'll have a delay of 100 milliseconds. Time.slip 0.1. So time.slip will give you the number of seconds of delay, whatever you mention here in these brackets. Now let's see. A is 65, B is 100. This program it's supposed to execute as long as A is less than B. So A is 65, which is less than B 100. So it will keep executing unless you add A to some value so that there is a chance of reaching to 100. If you don't add A so that it never reaches 100, then also we'll see what happens. Let me just run this code. 65, 89, 90, 99 and the program stopped. So what we did here is we simply looped our code. You can very well just have A is 0, B adds 10 and execute the same thing. It just doesn't matter. It will execute from 0 to 9. As soon as it becomes 10, it is not less than B and your execution stopped. If you don't have this line written, then A will be forever less than B and your while loop will simply keep executing on and on and on and on and on. This is called as infinite loop. This is where most of our embedded programs will be residing in, most of our embedded programs will be staying in. And whenever needed, if you want to run an infinite loop program, you don't even have to write down all these things. You simply write down while true and the program will go into infinite loop. But that's later. For now, let's try to understand this. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now I can have the same effect achieved using a for loop. Look at it. So for I, so you'll write it like this. For I in range 10. Okay, that's it. For I in range 10, print value of I is equal to I. Just to make it easier, I will execute the first one only 5 times, and then I will print a line of stars as a separator between the two. So for I in range 10, value of I equal to I. Let's see what it does. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I don't have time.sleep here. That's why you are not experiencing the delay. Have you noticed? We have not mentioned that we want to start I with 0. We have not mentioned that we want to increment I by 1. We have not mentioned these two things. We have just mentioned I in range 10. When you write a statement like this, Python will automatically interpret that you want to start I from 0. You want to reach it up to 10 and you want to increment by 1 in each iteration. This is one way to look at it. Second way to look at it is this, 2, 10. Now what happens is you are giving the initialization value. So you don't start from 0, you start from 2 or 3 or for that matter anything that you want. And then you will end before 10, that is at 9. You still haven't specified an increment or decrement value. Now what I'll do is I'll make it 100, 2, 100, and then I'll give an increment value here 5. This is the third way of using for loop. So for I in range just 10, for I in range 2, 10, and now for I in range 2, 100, 5. This time you are mentioning with what value you want to increment I. So let's see, it will be 2, then 7, 12, 17, 22, 27 and all those things. It stopped at 97 because now the value of I started from 2, it got incremented by 5 and then it ended at 97. Again, it is not even the fact that you cannot start it with 0. You can very well start from 0 as you want. Execute it. 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, blah, 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 up to 95. This can give you a very simple task of writing table of a number or multiplication table of a number by accepting it from users. So there will be many iterations of if, for and while that we will be using throughout this program, throughout this Raspberry Pi PICO based Micropython learning, and there will be many Python tricks that we will be studying along as well. It's not important for you to understand the Python fully before learning Raspberry Pi PICO. As I told you in the starting of this video as well, it is not at all even mandatory to learn Python completely before you learn Raspberry Pi PICO. I know this video has been long, probably the longest, but I wanted to give you this overview of Python. So when we do start experimenting with Raspberry Pi PICO, you shouldn't feel alien. You shouldn't feel that, oh, you're not understanding anything. That's the reason I made this video a bit longer. I hope you will understand some fragments of Python with this, and going forward, whenever there is a new concept introduced throughout our programming with PICO, I'll explain that as well. Thank you for watching this video.